Prinses Irenestraat, Amsterdam. This stunning street is home to the third and outermost of the three main canals in the city. Situated in the business district of Zuidas, the area is typically a setting for meetings between businessmen that work in the financial sector. Many of the major banks are based here, and the clientele is generally affluent and aspirational. On the 8th of December 2016, the Citizen M Hotel on the Prinses Irenestraat was the setting for one now infamous business meeting between a Dutch crime blogger and a representative from an encrypted phone company called MPC. This meeting would set in motion one of the most sensational murder cases the European underworld has seen in recent times. From Ballieston to Brazil, this is the story of the killing of Martin Kok. Martin Kok was born on June 25, 1967, in the town of Volendam, a traditional Dutch town of wooden windmills and cheese markets. As a teenager, he and his father and brother sold eel at cafes in Amsterdam. He took regular orders from pubs and supplied their kitchens with fresh shrimp and salmon. He would wear the traditional Volendam dress, red shirt, baggy black pants and clogs. The work felt demeaning, and the patrons were condescending. Koch felt unfulfilled and uninspired with his share of the wealth he could see accumulating all around him. He wasn't going to upgrade his lifestyle by selling fish in the streets, and his head was eventually turned elsewhere. For the past couple of hundred years, the Dutch ports and canal networks have been some of the most lucrative trade centres on the globe. However, with this unrivaled prosperity came the rise of a thriving criminal underground, especially in Amsterdam. Koch eventually moved to the Dutch capital in his late teens and began working in club coat rooms where he met prospective clients and sold drugs to them. Koch was aggressive but charismatic, a class clown, but also tall, beefy, and imposing, with a streak of ruthlessness. He was as disarming as he was dangerous, brilliantly described as a cuddly bear with a handgun. His behavior started to become more extreme. In the summer of 1988, at the age of 21, he shot at an old schoolmate who had begun cutting into his business. In 1989, he assaulted another rival drug dealer, 21-year-old Peter Giesbergen. Having gotten into a bar fight, Koch repeatedly hit him in the head with a bar stool. The man later died from his injuries. The Netherlands has lenient laws on how long criminals spend in jail, and Koch was eventually jailed for only 5 years. While in jail, Koch befriended the most feared criminal in all the Netherlands at that time, Willem Holleder. Holleder had been imprisoned after what was called the trial of the century. He was involved in the kidnapping of the president of Heineken Beer Company, Freddie Heineken. Along with his crew, Holleder extorted Heineken Corporation for almost $20 million. After the ransom was paid and Frederick Heineken was released in late November 1983, Holleder and the others escaped to France with the money. 3 months later, Holleder was arrested, and soon all the other perpetrators were also apprehended. He was imprisoned for 11 years and has since been charged with carrying out several gang-related murders himself, as well as ordering other assassinations. In prison, Martin Kok, Willem Holleder, and Cor van Hout, one of Holleder's accomplices in the Heineken kidnapping, became very close friends. They ate lunch and hung out together. It was during this time that Koch got a taste for the higher echelons of the organized crime hierarchy, and this would ultimately prove to be his undoing. When Koch was released, he sank back comfortably into his life of crime. In a gang-related incident, he blackmailed Jan Geit, a former accountant of Mafia boss Klaas Bruinsma, and placed a firework bomb under his car which blew it to pieces, but he survived. His crime? He owed Koch's father-in-law a nominal amount of money. Koch was again arrested after an altercation with his ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend, a local taxi driver. As it turned out, his girlfriend had found new love while he was in prison. At one point, the two men had an argument, and the boyfriend threatened Koch with a screwdriver. In response, Martin pulled out his gun and shot him dead. He then posted a sound clip of the entire ordeal on the internet, along with a picture of the dead man. He got the sound clip from his ex-girlfriend's phone, as she had been on a call with the police during the shooting, and everything could be heard. The video that Martin Kok posted went viral. Aside from violence and making money illicitly, there was one thing that Koch treasured above all else in life: attention. After his release at the age of 47, Koch started the crime website Vlinderscrime.nl, after the Dutch word for butterflies. He was unorthodox and reckless, throwing unverified and unverified rumors online as news. This was usually complete with pictures if possible, without a bar over the eyes, and insulting criminals when it suited him. The blog had a healthy readership in the Dutch underworld. It became indispensable reading for civilians too. In early December 2016, he posted a screenshot of a Google Analytics page claiming more than 4 million page views for the previous month. Banner ads for law firms, spy shops, encrypted communication devices, flooring suppliers, and sex shops sold for thousands of euros, he once told local media. He reported on Irish mob kingpins, Moroccan drug lords, assassination plots, biker gangs, and his frequent partying habits. Unlike mainstream Dutch media outlets, which only report a suspect's first name and the first initial of the last name, he often published full names. Koch's rejection of this journalistic convention made him a target of the people he covered, as did the relentless mocking of his subjects. Someone tried to shoot him at his home in 2015, leaving his car perforated by bullets, and in 2016, he discovered an explosive under his vehicle. When a bomb squad descended, along with television news cameras, Koch reveled in the attention. In an interview with a journalist at the scene, he was amiable and charismatic, drunk on exposure as he stuttered through the interview. He called the explosive device a bomberoni, to the delight of viewers who had come to know Koch and his exploits. "I'm on so many lists, all I have to do is bow my head and they'll kill each other in the crossfire," he told the television reporter. Koch, a sturdy man with a heavy, creased face and eyes that nevertheless seemed eager to please, crowed to the camera, "Vlinderscrime is not going to quit. That's where it happens." He was the first to publish the names of Ridouan Taghi and his possible crime partners. This angered Taghi and made Koch a target. In July 2016, a police officer passing by accidentally saw a bomb under Koch's car, which was parked opposite the clientele aan de Amstel restaurant, on the border of Amsterdam and Amstelveen. The bomb was defused. It was later detonated in a remote area, which showed the enormous power of the explosive. Journalists enjoyed his company, and he enjoyed their validation. But it was dangerous to be too close to him. A bullet meant for Koch might stray. Journalists who met with him for dinner would not let him pay their bills, fearing that it would lead to uncomfortable moral debts. Koch's method was to talk to guys he'd known in prison, accept their chatter as fact, and publish a story, fast. He was willing to impugn people with little more than anonymous quotes. Then he'd send text messages to journalists alerting them to his scoop. He published content revealing details about gang activities, specifically about the corrupt customs officer Gerrit G., who was the pivot in an extensive drug network. He not only allowed containers of cocaine to enter the country unchecked, but also advised his customers which deck cargo to use to avoid arousing suspicion among his colleagues. Containers with drugs passed the controls in the port of Rotterdam unimpeded. Koch's last contribution about Gerrit G. was made on Thursday the 8th of December. He was killed later that evening. At some time between 2015 and 2016, Koch was approached by a company called MPC, which produced encrypted phones and sold them to the privacy-conscious. MPC was looking to sponsor Butterfly Crime in return for advertising on the website. They made an agreement and began posting ads and flaunting MPC-branded hats and other memorabilia on the site and its social media. MPC paid Koch around 13,000 euros to keep him wanting to meet with the company. For Koch, it was easy money. As it turns out, MPC was no ordinary phone company. A handful of these so-called encrypted phone companies exist. Many of them cater to and sell to criminals. However, MPC itself was run by two suspected kingpins from Glasgow, two brothers named James and Barry Gillespie. Initially, the brothers were clients of the encrypted phone industry and used to buy their specialized BlackBerry devices from a company called Enetcom, according to a source with knowledge of their operations. Dutch police say they have linked Enetcom, run by a man called Danny Manupasa, to cases of armed robbery, assassinations, and drug trafficking. The brothers, not wanting to trust others with their security, decided to create their own devices. They hired developers to make a custom operating system. The brothers then handed the phones out to groups and people they worked with on importing drugs, according to two sources. But beyond just using the phones to help with securely committing crime, selling phones to organized gangs became a business venture in itself. The Gillespies were, and possibly still are, at the very top of organized crime within Scotland. Police Scotland suspects that the brothers may have now been killed in Brazil, where they were hiding out since 2018. However, at the time of this case, they were believed to be living between Portugal and the Netherlands. They went under the aliases James Gardner and Eamon Fitzpatrick and posed as real estate investors as cover for their illegal activities. They led a gang back in Scotland but operated from abroad, alongside fellow criminals James White and Christopher Hughes. Christopher Hughes was an active employee of MPC encrypted phones and organised some of the MPC marketing activities on Martin Kok's crime blog. Hughes and Koch were in each other's company on December 8, 2016. They had an appointment at the Citizen M Hotel near the Zuidas railway station in Amsterdam. Police camera images show Koch and Hughes in the lobby and bar of the hotel. There is CCTV footage of a darkly dressed man pacing up and down in front of the hotel for some time, apparently waiting. When Koch leaves the hotel with Hughes and turns right, the same man comes running toward Koch. He approaches him from behind and draws a gun. He holds that firearm at the height of Koch's head for a moment and then runs away again. It is suspected that the weapon may have failed. Judging by the camera images, Martin Kok and Hughes did not notice any of this. It has since been suggested that Hughes had put on a hat so that the shooter did not mistake him for Koch. That afternoon, the police also see a Renault Clio driving through the street on camera images. There is also a grey Toyota Auris captured within the area. Later that Thursday evening at 11:31 p.m, the doorman of sex club Boccaccio makes an emergency report to the police that someone has been shot in the head in the parking lot of the club. Once on scene, officers see that Koch has been shot behind the wheel of a VW Polo. He was killed instantly and fell into the driver's seat with the car key in his hand. Testimonies from guests and employees of the sex club show that a man whom Koch called Scotty had spent 2 hours in a room with a prostitute. Koch was also in a room with a prostitute for a few hours. At that time, a customer pulled the doorman of the club with a tip that he had seen a suspicious black BMW in the woods ahead. When the doorman walked in that direction, the BMW drove off. The manager stated to the police that he had been in contact with Koch a few times earlier that year about a party his friend Scotty wanted to give at Boccaccio's. This, Scotty, was Christopher Hughes, the same man who had been to the Citizen M Hotel in Amsterdam. The last photo was taken of Koch alive, lounging on a bed in black underpants. A pink neon light glowing behind him, he gives a double thumbs up to the camera, unknowing the horror that awaits him outside. Just before 11:30 p.m, the porter let Koch and Hughes out. Camera images have registered that at 11:23 p.m, Koch comes out with Hughes right behind him. Koch unlocked his car while walking with the remote control. He got in and closed the door. At that moment, a man with a slim build and a balaclava emerged from the edge of the forest along the left front side of Koch's car. His right arm was stretched out. He shot Koch several times near the driver's seat. Immediately, he disappeared back into the bushes from which he had come. In the seconds that the gunman was firing, Hughes walked away from the parking lot in the direction of Boccaccio's exit at a very leisurely pace, according to the police. He constantly looked at his hands, possibly at a telephone. He paused for a second to glance back toward the parking lot. Then he walked off and out of sight. The next evening, on Friday, December 9th, at 7:30 p.m, a man who identified himself as Christopher Hughes reported to the Meer on Vaart police station in Amsterdam, Osdorp. He said he had witnessed Koch's murder and wanted to make a statement. After questioning, he was arrested for complicity in the murder. Hughes stated that he saw a man in a dark jacket and a ski mask who was shooting in Koch's car. He said he ran away because he was in shock. He had told detectives that he used a gram of cocaine and had several vodkas in Boccaccio. After the shooting, he says he panicked and called a friend who picked him up. He was released from custody a week later. Gradually, the conviction grew among the detectives that he had acted as a decoy and that the notorious Ridwan Taghi had ordered yet another assassination. Koch had been the first to publish extensive detail about Taghi and his close friends, and soon after had survived the attack with the heavy car bomb. Supposed close associates of Taghi were also involved in that attack, including the Utrecht criminals Anouar Zwartkat B and Zakaria A. In the Netherlands, Taghi is on trial for ordering the murder of Koch, amongst other crimes. The police base his role on PGP messages that Taghi allegedly sent and on the statement of Anouar B. Two of Taghi's co-defendants in Marengo are also suspected of a role in Koch's murder. The police see a link with those two suspects: telephones and the Renault Clio and the grey Toyota Auris that were seen in Amsterdam at the Citizen M Hotel on the day of the murder. CCTV footage from Boccaccio shows that a grey Toyota Auris entered Boccaccio's property, drove a circle, and left again. That was around the time the doorman went to look at the black BMW. On Friday evening, December 9th, 2016, two burning cars were found in the Slotervaart district of Amsterdam, a BMW and a Renault Clio. The BMW was a grey 3 Series. The detective cannot determine whether that car was involved in Koch's murder. Cameras near the hotel in Amsterdam South show the Clio, the Toyota, and a white motorcycle, along with several men. The police believe that one of them was the man who made the attempt on Koch at the hotel. He wears striking-looking shoes with a white sole edge and is seen talking to people in the Renault Clio. Detectives have linked both the Clio and the Toyota to the criminal organisation that is in court for the Marengo trial and is ongoing at the time of this video. It concerns a secretly filmed video of Martin Kok in a Rotterdam bar that was found in 2017 on a telephone belonging to Nabil B, the key prosecution witness in the Marengo case. The video would have ended up on B's device via co-suspect Mohammed R, a criminal partner of Ridwan Taghi. Hughes eventually fled the Netherlands and went on the run for 2 years before being captured by Italian police at the Gliss Hotel in San Mauro Torinese in January 2020. He had lived under the identity of a 29-year-old Latvian called Aleksis Rustanovs, which explained how he had managed to move freely across Europe for a long period of time. When Hughes appeared in Scottish court, almost 5 years since the assassination took place, the Crown case was largely circumstantial. However, it was the evidence of a police informant that proved crucial. This individual worked for the crime group, but was also a police informant, or CHIS, having been approached by the police in July 2016. A formal agreement was signed in November of the same year. He attested that he had received payments from the police amounting to almost £10,000 between the 5th of October 2016 and the 11th of December 2017. The informant gave evidence about the activities of the organised crime group run by the Gillespie brothers, which operated throughout Scotland and Europe. He was recruited by the group on November 3, 2015, and his evidence was that soon afterward he became aware that its real business was drugs and guns. He was sent to such places as Malaga, Dubai and Amsterdam, the visit to Dubai taking place in what the Crown described as opulent circumstances, including travel in a Rolls-Royce and a visit to a party on a yacht attended by celebrities. When Hughes himself gave evidence, said he had attended at the police station in Amsterdam because he thought the police were going to be looking for him and wanted to let them know what had happened. He claimed he had met with Koch at the hotel and that it was a pre-arranged business meeting to discuss advertising. After some time, they left the hotel and travelled to the club. He stopped to share a joke with the doorman about a cat and then saw the masked man shooting into the car. He was frightened that he might have been next, walked out to the back of the club and kept walking, hoping to see the police. He climbed over a wall into a garden. He was in shock and wanted to reflect on what had happened. He texted a friend who came and picked him up, but he did not want to give the friend's name. He claimed that he had smashed his phone and put it into a bin, having dropped it while he was walking. He did not know the street where he had disposed of the phone. The informant then told the High Court in Glasgow that he had been in contact with Koch between June and November of 2016, with a view to placing advertisements for MPC's encrypted telephones on his website. He met Koch in Amsterdam on the 11th of November 2016. He was instructed by James Gillespie to arrange a meeting with Koch for the 7th of December 2016 in an Amsterdam hotel. He was told that Chris Hughes would be attending, but Hughes was late for the meeting, and Koch got impatient and left. Sometime later, after he had returned home to Glasgow, the informant received a text message from James Gillespie which read something like, "Bastard, never happened." He was worried that Koch was to be killed, to the extent that he contacted his police handlers, but they calmed him down. The next morning, Gillespie seemed calmer, and the informant had thought that he had misunderstood the text message. He was instructed to rearrange the meeting for that day, and it was fixed for the Citizen M Hotel in Amsterdam. He was in contact with Hughes by text over the course of the day. Later that day, the 8th of December 2016, while at home, he received a text from Gillespie that said that Koch had been done. The informant went on to say that in late 2017, he was ordered by James Gillespie to leave Glasgow and spent 12 days in Hughes' flat in Antwerp in November 2017. During that visit, Hughes admitted his participation in the murder. When the informant asked him if he had been aware of the attempt on Koch's life outside the hotel, and he replied, "Yes, if that cunt had not sneezed, he would have put the bullet through my face or my head." Hughes thereafter described the pair travelling to the club where he paid for Koch to spend time with a girl. He said that he was in communication with James Gillespie by encrypted telephone from the club and was told that someone was waiting for Koch. On advising Gillespie that they were leaving the premises, Hughes had been told to hold back, that Koch was to go to his car first so that he was not caught in the crossfire. After the shooting, he walked away from the car to message Gillespie. He told the informant that he left by the gate of the car park and started walking up a road away from the building. At some point, while on that road, he heard and saw the lights of the police. He jumped into and hid in the hedges of a garden until they went past. He then got a message from Gillespie with arrangements to be picked up and taken away. He was told to get rid of a couple of phones and present himself to a police station to report that he was there when Koch was killed. As for Koch, he was the unlucky one. His name is now synonymous with fame and misfortune, fearlessness and misinformation. And it's a story that the killer-turned-writer could well have written himself. He was laid to rest on his own terms. His funeral began in Volendam and ended in the Vrednof cemetery in Amsterdam. The coffin was carried by 4 young women in skimpy outfits, and champagne was served during the service. Friends and family ended the service with a last toast. "You were a top guy. You were a murder guy." Rest in peace, Martin Kok. If you have enjoyed this video, it would really help the channel if you could hit the like button and subscribe. OCG TV is working hard behind the scenes to improve all aspects of our content for you to enjoy.